Hello and welcome to another Game Nexus video. Today we're going to be taking a look at Die Hard Arcade for the Sega Saturn. This was released on February 28th of 1997. This of course is the American Sega Saturn version, rated T for teen. You can see all the cool stuff they have on here. I love these big cases, they're really nice. But as you can see, the disc of course is already in the console. And the first version of this game I had was actually Dynamite Deca, which is the Japanese version. This is what's called the Satakore release. As you can see, there's this white border around it, and it was only 2,800 yen when this originally came out. Kind of like your greatest hits for your PlayStation or your platinum hits for your Xbox. You can see it has all the characters. There's Bruno Dillinger, the female character. She's Kris something or other. There's the president of the Nakatomi Corporation's daughter, and then there's White Fang. And the disc just has the Dynamite Deca text on it. And the reason I eventually got the American version here was because in this version, when you do the caution things where it's like jump, punch, up, down. When it actually says jump, punch, kick, it's in Japanese, and at the time I had no idea what it meant, so if you can understand what the punch, kick, and jump stuff is, this version is really good. If not, and you want the American one that plays on your American system without any modification, then of course go for this. But we're going to be taking a look at this one, and longtime Sega Saturn fans will notice something here, that my controller is actually in controller port 2, and that's because in this gameplay I'm going to be playing as player 2, as you saw in the back of the Japanese version. So I'm going to close the console and we're going to get right into this. I'm going to pan up real quick here so you can see what's going on. Sega Saturn boots. And let's get right into the gameplay now. Okay, and that's really the only drawback you have for a CD-based console, where it's a little bit of loading time here and there, but considering you have the game on a CD-ROM, you come to expect that at this time. So it's not really all that bad, and of course Fox Interactive made this game. I don't know if I mentioned it out in the top there, but the Japanese version of the game came out on January 24th of 1997.
We got a band of terrorists that seized control of the building. They're holding 30 hostages inside, including the president's daughter. I repeat, they have the president's daughter in there. We have to get her out as soon as possible. Over.
And of course, that's the exact same intro as you had in the arcade version. Nothing really special about that, and as I had mentioned in the arcade version video, the reason that these two games look so similar is that the Sega Saturn and the arcade hardware are basically exactly the same. There's not really a huge difference between the two. And you get this cool little menu here, and let me just show you the options real quick. Now the one feature I noticed here was, you see there's violence. And that allows there to be like a little bit of like very cartoony blood. The movie scenes let you change if there's like those scenes or not. Friendly hits will make it so the two players can hit each other. Not hurt each other, but just hit each other. So that's another feature you have there. The other thing we have here, this is a game called Deep Scan. Now you'll notice right there I have only 4 credits. That's kind of a drawback as compared to the arcade version, which I can have unlimited credits. Now, this is an arcade game which was released in 1979 by Sega. Basically, your object here is to drop these little mines and blow up the little subs. And since this is the minigame to Die Hard Arcade, every time you bonus in the bottom left corner there, you end up getting more credits for Die Hard Arcade, and you can get up to 99 credits by doing this. And I can honestly tell you, when I actually did this gameplay footage myself, I spent like a half an hour playing Deep Scan. And I'm going to tell you, it's not the funnest game in the world, but considering you can actually get more credits for Die Hard Arcade, it's pretty cool. So, it is a cool thing to be able to do this and get more credits, or you can try your luck on just getting, using the 4 credits, but I'm not going to really show you more of that because simply enough, it's not much more than what you saw there. So let's just get right into Die Hard Arcade. Now, no matter which character you are, that intro is exactly the same, and it always shows both characters. It doesn't actually show the character you are, which kind of would have been a cool little feature if they had just only shown the character who's playing the game instead of showing both. And now, one thing I noticed right away when I first started playing as this character is that she has a bunch of different moves that Bruno Dillinger or John McClane didn't have. And she honestly, just like any female character, tends to move a little bit faster, which is a really good thing when you're facing so many enemies. And now that's one thing I thought was really weird, is the female characters, they make that crazy female laugh when they hit you, but they still go, no, no. And I'm thinking to myself, they really shouldn't make dude sounds at all, because that's kind of creepy. Here's our first caution, and I actually didn't screw it up this time. Since in my arcade Mame review, I actually screwed that part up, and instead of hitting punch, I hit kick. And that's one cool thing to note, is when you actually, if you have a gun at the end of a scene, you keep the gun. And one thing I found out while playing this, since it had been so long since I played any Die Hard Arcade at all, is if you see me knock down guys and these little H's start to spin, what that gives you is it gives you another ammo clip. And those ammo clips can build up until you get the gun to use them. So, you could, like, build up quite a few ammo clips and be, like, basically shooting all these guys in the whole scene. And that's another cool feature. When the guy has you down on the ground and he starts punching you, if you start mashing the buttons, you'll flip over and you'll start punching the guy instead. And now, if you're really playing this game seriously, one thing you're going to want to look for, see in the corner there, there's the little red and white things. Those are your health pickups. They can be pretty small, or they could be like a full health kit with a red cross on it. And those will replenish your health, which really helps you in conserving your credits here if you don't want to really feel like you're using too many credits because you can. And of course, the bad guy there is... he's still going crazy over not finding the president's daughter, even though she's in his desk. And this is one thing that seems kind of strange, but this is just how they do it, is the costumes tend to change during the gameplay. I haven't really seen any, like, correlation as to why. It's just kind of the sequence of the costumes and how they change. But you'll notice earlier she was wearing a standard jacket, and now she's wearing a bulletproof vest. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to, like, give you kind of that, like, illustration on how this character fighting through all these bad guys is facing and getting through all this action. So, like, at first I'll have all the clothes, and then there'll be, like, slightly less, and at the end there'll be hardly any. And now this is a part where the disc kind of messed up, where it didn't like play the music right away, but I still was able to succeed in that. I think in this whole playthrough, I only failed on 1 or 2 of them. And now this was the thing that I was mentioning a lot in the arcade version, is that it really gets annoying in this part with the water. It doesn't really hurt you, it just knocks you over. And now, in the Japanese version of this game, the 2 characters' names were Bruno, Mr. Dynamite Dillinger, and Cindy Holiday. Of course, in the English version, they changed Bruno Dillinger to Bruce Willis because, simply enough, he looks like Bruce Willis. But in the Japanese version, for some reason, I mean in the English version, for some reason, Cindy Holiday's first name got at least changed to Caroline. And I always find it crazy in this game that you're actually fighting firefighters. It's like, do they have nothing better to do than to wail on our characters? It's like, hey, firefighters, these guys are going to be trying to stop us. So, make sure you get them, because it's really important. And that's another thing that seems a bit strange. It's a little bit not as smooth as the arcade version was when you transition in from scenes, because it has to load some it has to load some information off of the disc, I guess. Oh, now that's a bit odd. The funny thing is, a lot of game sites, they don't have all the current information about this game, but what I have in my hand is the actual instruction manual for this game. And this is what it says about the characters. First, of course, there's John McClane, formerly known as Bruno Dillinger. A veteran detective from New York, he's married with 2 children, but his wife lives with the kids in Los Angeles. Because of her work, John is visiting LA to spend time in the holidays with his family. His choice of weapon is a Beretta 92F. And I was actually right on my initial thing that I said in the intro there, is that her name was Kris, which is actually Kris Thompsen here, as opposed to Cindy Holiday in the Japanese version. It calls her a detective fresh out of the police academy. She has just been assigned to LAPD. She is a martial artist expert, especially proficient in Kung Fu. But she does some really good kicks and stuff, and you'll notice me doing jump kicks during the playthrough. So, she really is able to handle herself. And now, every time I see that caution scene, I always think to myself, she was running after that dude. All of a sudden, this girl turns the corner, and she just like wails her and knocks her the hell down. And it just doesn't seem really nice that she just punches this random lady. Well, back to character bios. Then there's our main baddie, who's known as White Fang. It says the leader of a terrorist group that has occupied the Nakatomi building, giving you more of that Die Hard connection, in an effort to steal $6 million in negotiable bonds that are kept in the building safe. A man with military experience, White Fang is also an expert in military arts. His specialty is fighting with swords, which we'll see later, because I don't know if I mentioned it yet, but this will actually be a full playthrough, since a full playthrough of Die Hard Arcade, if you're not dying too much, can take like 25 minutes to a half an hour, so it's not too bad. And the cool part about the manual is it lists all like a lot of the weapons and everything that you can actually use on your enemies. Like, if you saw in the first scene where I was by the elevators, there's a grandfather clock. I actually could have lifted that and threw it at the bad guys. It would have like... Now that's one of those lines that seemed very unclear.
Why isn't that safe open yet?
He said, haven't you killed them yet? Now get to the lobby. And of course, he's still looking for the president's daughter. But that's what I was saying before. It just seems like it's a little bit choppy when it's getting into the scenes. Now, just for fun here, I'm going to read you the whole story panel from the North American, if you will, manual here. Terror in the Nakatomi building. John McClane, a detective from New York, arrives in Los Angeles to spend vacation with his family. He stops by the LAPD to visit a former partner. So I'm guessing Kris Thompsen here, or if you're Japanese, Cindy Holiday's former partner. But while he is there, he learns that terrorists have occupied the Nakatomi building where his wife works. The rogue band of nihilists? That's kind of a strange word. Led by the notorious White Fang, have taken Missy Harrington, now apparently the president of Nakatomi Plaza is last named Harrington, so he's not Japanese like Nakatomi would make you think. The president of Nakatomi Corporation's only daughter hostage. John McClane tries to hitch a ride with patrol cars that are heading to the scene, but is denied. Not one to give up, he causes so much trouble that a rookie detective named Kris Thompsen, so I guess his old partner wasn't Kris Thompsen, she's just somebody who was going to help, is assigned to keep an eye on him. But McClane explains the situation to her, and smooth talker that he is convinces her to help him get to the scene. The two head for the parking lot to snatch a patrol car. As they emerge from the police headquarters, they discover SWAT helicopters about to take off from the parking lot. John McClane jumps onto the helicopter just as it is about to take off, and Thompson has no choice but to follow. With no time left to kick... Wait, hang on here. With no time left to kick the two out, the helicopter takes off and heads to the scene. Okay, so they stole a patrol car and went to a helicopter. That doesn't really make all that much sense. No time to kick them out. The helicopter takes off and they head to the scene. The helicopter arrives at the Nakatomi building and descends toward the roof. The SWAT members jump to the roof but are immediately picked off by the terrorist fire. As the chopper turns to retreat, McClane leaps out unarmed. Thompson reaches out to stop him but is dragged into the fray. Now the two must begin their fight to destroy the fiendish plot of White Fang and rescue the president's daughter. Yeah, there's the one that I failed. It was so quick that I didn't hit the jump button, but the only drawback of that one was that I got hurt a bit, and you gotta face this very weird football-ish guy, I guess he's supposed to be, because he looks like he's wearing American football pads, but he has this really little tiny pea head. I mean, really, it looks like the vegetable like peas that you would eat. So it's really weird and freaky. And he's really tough, so I'm guessing he has like more than the life bar that you see there. And I might have not mentioned this before, but this actually got released on the PlayStation 2 under the Sega Ages collection. So it got quite an enhancement there where it had enhanced character models, but the gameplay was pretty much the same. It's just that everything ended up looking a lot better. But it played pretty similar, and of course your White Fang, instead of looking like all pixelated like he does here in the arcade version, he has a more polygonal look, so he's a bit more defined. And of course, for some reason, he doesn't realize this. What would have been cool there is if, So it did have to load a whole scene for him to say yes. What I was gonna say is, what would have been cool there is if it started playing Ode to Joy like in Die Hard when the safe opened, it started playing Ode to Joy, and they were all so happy about it. Now you'll see another costume change. She's in like shorts and a tank top. But what I was going to say is White Fang didn't quite realize that the SWAT guys got killed right away, and they're not the ones who are giving them a problem. Now, one thing it took me a couple minutes to notice here about this flamethrower weapon I was using is it's kind of like the old DOS game Blood, where it's a spray can and a lighter. And when you lose it, it's actually two items that you have to pick up one after another. So if you don't pick up both items, you just do the spray can, and then you don't get the full effect of it. Oh, and another thing to mention is that for the PlayStation 2 version, Deep Scan also got a bit of an upgrade, and it looks like from the pictures that I've seen is that it has the same effect on your credits because it has the credits up in the corner. And it also has like Altered Beast and Golden Axe modes, which are all pretty cool. Perhaps someday when I get that game, I will show it to you as well. And now this part of the game is really annoying because you're desperately trying to fight these guys, and this stupid satellite dish keeps on hitting. And now you notice just a couple seconds ago there, when I picked up the H, a little clip showed up in the corner, meaning I have to clip whenever I have a gun again. And whenever you hear that sound, you know it's time to do one of these caution scenes. So you know that music is indicating that you are about to have to do some sort of action really fast. As long as it's not like that fountain one where it just kind of like springs it on you really quick. And now these robots here are kind of like the ones you fought in one of the earlier stages, but they just weren't nearly as tough as they were there. They only have like one life bar worth of space. And, of course, they're a different color because you know how all these beat-em-up games like to do it, and they just basically give you a generic character who just changes color. And I guess that scene over there just wanted to show you that the bad guys had all the money and they're on their way out of the place. It's always crazy to see all these guys in these crazy outfits. Like, they're supposed to be like terrorist bad guys, but they're dressing in like these crazy red and yellow and pink outfits. I never quite understood that. It's just a really crazy thing. But I guess like when the designers of a beat-em-up game get kind of bored, they're like, hey, what can we do with the outfits of the characters just to make them look a little bit more crazy? So they just give them these different outfits. And of course, here's one of the many fat guys in the game. And in the whole Dynamite Deca series, any of the fat guys are always harder to fight, and they always end up throwing their bodies at you, which just ends up hurting you even more than regular. And now you notice when I have the handgun here, I had 2 free clips, so I have a lot more bullets than I would have had if I hadn't had the extra clips. But of course, the thing that annoys me always is like, you can't hold on to the handgun if somebody knocks you down, so you just have to pick it up again and hope it doesn't actually disappear from the game. And I probably already mentioned it in the arcade version Mame review, but whenever you use another credit, it's just like a lot of games, like, for instance, if you've ever played Metal Slug, whenever you put a coin in there, you always get a heavy machine gun power-up.
Someone help me! I'm hiding in the president's office. Someone help me!
The cat has found a
And as I was saying, the whole handgun thing was kind of like the getting the heavy machine gun and metal slug when you use another credit. I always thought it was a kind of cool thing that, especially with arcade games, they entice you to keep continuing. And of course, in this instance, they kept it with the home version because these were kind of developed side by side, but the home version didn't come out. The home version didn't come out till a year later, because the arcade version, they wanted it to have a decent run of it, so you wouldn't just play it at home. And now that rocket launcher, you always have to be very careful when somebody's using that, because it's one of those area effects. The funny part is, like, not only does it really hurt you, but it really hurts the enemies. And now whenever I see Kris here do that crazy, like, spiral kick, I always think of, like, Dalcium from Street Fighter, or Betty Maru from King of Fighters, because they both have, like, a kind of spinny move that you can do when you jump in the air. Although Dalcium's, he always goes head first with that. And I think Zack from Dead or Alive has a move where he does like a headbutt to somebody as well, which always reminded me of Dalcium. And now this is one of few of those caution scenes where hitting the button in the right time doesn't like stop you from fighting somebody, but you'll notice all of their lives have almost been halved. So that really did help a lot that I was able to hit the punch button at the proper time. Although, don't get me wrong, these guys aren't really all that hard, but when you're worried about how many credits you're going to use, then it really does help to have a time when you don't have to fully go full force on your enemy and defeat them all the way. And as I was mentioning earlier, these rocket launchers are bad when your enemies have them, but as you could see right there, very good when you have them. And that's one thing I don't like about these, some of the firefighters, which seems kind of weird for a firefighter, but it's not so weird for like those like SWAT-looking guys I was fighting earlier. If they're on the ground, they can like all of a sudden have a handgun and they'll just start shooting you on the ground, which makes it very hard to hit them. And you can see even that guy, he actually like flipped around and used the handgun on me. So a little bit daunting there. It's not really all that fair, if you will. Now this is the firefighter chief. So he's your big enemy boss before you get toward the end of the game here. I always found it crazy when like any of these enemies, they just jump totally on top of you. Like in a real game, in like a real life fight, that'd be a really bad tactic, because all you'd have to do is like grab a knife or a sword or something, just thrust up, and like you'd just stab them in the heart. So that wouldn't ever really be a good tactic. And when I was actually playing this, after spending that whole half an hour doing the deep scan, getting 99 credits, I thought I was going to use a lot more than I actually did here.
So there you are. You got here just in time. This whole building will explode in 5 minutes. But you won't live to see it anyway! Ha 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 ha!
And of course, that's the good old, the boss bragging that he's going to be able to beat you so easily, so why even bother? And just in case you're wondering, that guy on the wall is supposed to be the president of the Nakatomi Corporation. Which, in Japan, of course, it wasn't the Nakatomi Corporation. They just made that parallel for the American version, because the building looks so similar and the Bruce Willis character looks so similar. The Bruno Dillinger, if you will. But, my only guess is that Sega kind of knew what they were doing beforehand, and they kind of planned, because, like, if we can get that Die Hard license, we really should. So let's go ahead and make everything look very similar. And if we don't get it, we can just simply say, oh, it's just coincidence. There was no intent there. It's just a building that's like the same shape, and that guy kind of looks like Bruce Willis. Like his cousin looks like Bruce Willis. You're not going to sue him. So, you know, they could have easily, like, argued a little bit and got out of that. And you'll notice here that White Fang has a bit more, like, kung fu moves than some of the henchmen did. Now here, of course, is your final face-off with White Fang. Now, as the instruction manual had mentioned, he has his signature sword. I'm not sure why the SWAT helicopter is still there. I'm guessing they're trying to make it feel a little bit more epic that you're fighting this crazy boss guy who's trying to kill you with his sword, so they just wanted to escalate the whole situation by having the helicopter be there and it shining the light on you. I think it's seen once in this video, but if you're really far away from him, he does this move where, like, a bunch of swords all, like, cascade out from him, which, that's one word of advice I have. When you're doing this boss battle, don't be too far away from White Fang, or he'll do that move a lot, and it's not as easy to dodge as most of the stuff he does, but as far as boss characters go, he's not really one of the hardest ones I fought. His sword moves can seem a bit daunting at first, but they're not too bad. There's the sword thing right there, and that's the end of White Fang.
Thank you.
You could just imagine, John McClane and as she was called, Kris Thompsen, being like, hey guys, you know how you were kind of hovering your helicopter there, when we were fighting White Fang, and he was this crazy terrorist guy trying to kill us with a sword? You think you could have come out of the helicopter and helped us during that crazy ordeal, or maybe you just were happy watching? But as I said in the main review, this Die Hard arcade game, or if you have the Japanese version, Dynamite Deca, it's a really excellent beat-em-up game if you're into these types of game, and I really highly recommend it. It's really good for anybody who likes Die Hard, beat-em-up games, one cop versus bad guys thing. And there you can see my clear time was 17 minutes and 59 seconds of actual gameplay, and 13 credits were used. So, great game. Give it a shot if you haven't, and I shall see you later. Bye.